Before I put my SEB hat on, I gotta mention my husband. Y'all know me, come on. My husband, Kelvin King, is running for Secretary of State against Vernon Jones and 2 other gentlemen. He's the only one in the race that has a business, that has W-2 employees. There's a big deal when it comes to running a business. The Secretary of State's office is responsible for elections, business formation, as well as securities. We're gonna talk about elections. But I have to say, check out my husband. He's an Air Force Academy graduate, Air Force veteran. Like I said, business owner, husband, father, all the things. He's a man of integrity. He's a man of character. No matter how deep or how hard you look, you're not gonna find anything that will jeopardize his reputation. So keep that in mind when it's time to vote. And it's a reason why I'm talking about integrity, because now as I put my SEB hat on, we have to talk about duty. You mentioned communist China. I think the biggest problem, and I'm speaking as a millennial, I think the biggest problem I'm hearing right now is that when we hear communism, we go to the extreme. We go to the extent of, taking land, taking homes, taking property. But we don't talk about what happens in the meantime. We don't talk about how we lead up to that. And this is why being on the state election board is so important to me right now, because what we're doing is we are fighting back the small things that lead up to communism. Yes. And the younger generation, we've decided that we're not going to play the game anymore. It's time now to do it right, because we're the ones that's going to have to live in this. Our children are going to have to live in this. So if you're somebody, and I got to preface it right now because I don't mince words, and I'm not, y'all know me. If you're somebody who feels like, oh, we can just sit in it, oh, we can just, wait it out, oh, it's not that bad, a little bit of fraud is in every election. We don't get to have a little bit of fraud in our business. We don't get to make those type of mistakes. But yet we accept it in our elections? No, you've been lured to sleep. And it's time to wake up. The greatest compliment I've received since being on the state election board is that this agency is the one agency in this state that's getting things done. That's the biggest compliment. And that's what we fight for. We want to get things done. So I talk about duty and I talk about integrity. I believe that we are in a deficit when it comes to integrity and character amongst our current elected officials. And I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats. We are in a deficit. When we have elected officials who act as if they're too big to answer your phone calls, to respond to your emails, to eat, no matter what the question is, even if you think it's a dumb question, you still have a duty to respond. Because we don't elect you to represent us to then neglect us. That's not why you're there. And as my husband always says, it is not your seat, it is our seat. And that's where we have got to get in the game. We have to be willing to fight against what's happening right now. And I'm very serious about this because I was one of those people who felt like, oh, I know something happened in the 2020 election, but I think we should move on. I was one of those people until I got on the state election board and I realized that we have a lot that's happening right now. And while there are people who have moved on, the errors, the inconsistencies, the irregularities have not. We heard a case recently which blew up with Fulton County and the tabulator tapes and all that. Well, there's another case that's getting ready to come where there's the same mistakes that took place in 2024. If you don't address the problem, it will repeat itself. And everybody is okay with a little bit of fraud until it's your election. Until you lose by 12 votes and then you realize that 45 people voted in your election who are unqualified. Until you are the candidate, like in the city of Oakwood, where there was a municipal race, and we had 600 ballots get sent out to random people that didn't live in that area. 300 of them voted. The delta between the winner and the loser was 88 votes. And the man who lost didn't have the money to defend himself, and we certainly don't have a Secretary of State that has a backbone to do what's right. So the county emails the Secretary of State and says, hey, this election happened. This is a problem. And the Secretary of State said, certify anyway. So now you have election board members being forced to sign legal documents where they're putting little notes on the paper saying, I don't think this was a good election, but I have to certify. What is this? What are we doing? Is this just for formality? No. If we don't protect our elections, we will end up like communist China. There is no doubt in my mind. You know why? Because people and human nature dictates. It tells me that if you give people power, what do they say? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it will. Because when you don't have a job to go home to because your career is now politics, when you're facing child payments and college payments, mortgage payments, and your only means of receiving income is through politics, there is no way you can represent me effectively. Because you're never going to choose me over your mortgage. And that's human nature. So it's time now that we take our job as voters seriously and we do our duty. The purpose of the SCB, to promulgate rules, what does that mean? Define the law, pretty much. Not to make laws, not to legislate, but to define state codes and laws that are already presented. Not only that, but I believe that the purpose of the SCB is to provide checks and balances and to hold the line against rogue elected officials. Janelle's definition. And anybody who thinks that the Secretary of State's office needs to be the SCB needs to be under the control of the Secretary of State's office is completely wrong. We've got to stay on our own 2 feet. We've got to be fully funded. We've got to have our own attorney. We can't have the Attorney General representing us and the SOS. That's a problem. And I know everyone loves to talk about conflicts, and somehow I got thrown into that, and I'm not even the candidate. However, somehow somebody thinks that as a conflict that I'm on the SCB and Kelvin's running for SOS. Well, I got some conflicts for you. Let's talk about some conflicts. Let's talk about having a SCB that has to go and negotiate with the Attorney General's office, who's also working for the SOS, while we have emails from county officials saying that the SOS didn't help us. What do? There's your conflict. Go fight that one. If you want, let's fight real conflict. Let's stop with the silly stuff. Let's do real stuff. Let's fight real problems. So, what we've done thus far as a board, so we found out that we had a backlog of cases through the AJC. The one thing they did right is that they accidentally wrote a hit piece about us that alerted us to the fact that we had backlog in cases. And we didn't know. And our precious Dr. Jan, love her, she brought the article to the board meeting. Yes, please. I say Dr. Jan's our real leader. No, she's excellent. So she brought the article to a board meeting and she highlighted the fact that they listed a specific number of cases that we were behind. And I was confused. We all were confused. So Dr. Jan had Mark Nisi, who's now no longer with the AJC, but had him stand and asked him, how did you get these numbers? Where did they come from? he revealed his source, which probably was the fatal flaw for him. But he said, I got it from your chairman in the Secretary of State's office. So the Secretary of State's office and the chairman conspired against the rest of the board to assist in a hit piece that ended up alerting us to the fact that we had these cases. So you know what we did? We asked for all the cases. Bring them to us. As a result, the SOS said we're no longer sending our investigators to your meetings. I guess that was our punishment for asking for the cases that we are supposed to hear. We get the cases, and then we realize that there are cases like that Fulton County one that had been investigated and determined that there was a violation in 2021. Yet we are just now seeing it in 2025. And believe me, that's not the only one. There were several cases, and there's more to come, that they've been holding. And we think they're still holding cases. This is what we're up against. So while we're being called dysfunctional and all these things, you know what we are? We're doing our job. And they're not happy about it, because prior to the board being the way it is, it was just a quiet little board that no one even knew about, that had the SOS as the chair. Imagine that. Talk about the fox guarding the hen house. So I want to leave you with this quote, because we talk about this a lot, and I like to open up for questions. I want to make sure we have time, so I'm going to go quick. But we hear the quote from Ronald Reagan that says, freedom is never more than one generation away. And we typically stop there. But I think we need to hear the full quote. The full quote says that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in our bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day, we will spend our sunset years telling our children, our children's children, what it was like in the United States when men were free. That's the full quote. And I believe that 100%. We are comfortable. I jokingly say in the house, America, we're the fat king, because I love the medieval period. It's my favorite period. Because I feel like it's human nature at its core. I like it. I know. They're probably like, what, you're a girl? And you're like, yeah, I like it. I'm like that. But one thing about that time period is that there's always this fat king, right? The one who won all the wars, who got all the spoils, and he just sits there and eats sugar, because sugar is like the thing you can have, right? Back then, that was like a big deal. If you have sugar, you got a lot of money. And he gets fat, and he's just sitting there. And he no longer has to fight in wars and stuff like that, because he's amassed this huge, kingdom. I feel like that's America. Like, we act like we're just the fat king, just sitting here on our spoils. No need to protect anything anymore. Just let everything go the way it's going. Oh, I know that's messing up over there a little bit, but we'll just let that go. How many times are we going to let it slide before it becomes a problem? How many times are we going to say, well, it's not that bad, the government is kind of oppressing me? No, it's bad. And I'm tired of hearing that our elections are perfect, because they're not. If they were, we wouldn't have been in 300 cases of backlog cases of election fraud. What are they talking about? We have a SOS who's running around saying everything's fine, nothing happened in the 2020 elections. Well, clearly, something did happen. Because when you have 315,000 ballots that were certified without us knowing who counted them, whether there was no opening tape for a number of them, so we don't even know if there were pre-ballots already on there that were counted. And we certainly don't know who to ask, because nobody signed the tapes. That's perfect, that's good, that's a great election to you? No, not for us. So we're gonna keep fighting, we're gonna keep moving forward. And I am here, one more last thing, sorry, one more last thing. I used to think that the biggest problem was that we had so many, in my opinion, terrible elected officials. I want to get rid of all of them, start over. However, I think the biggest problem is that the people, we're not doing our duty. That we're allowing things to dictate stuff that shouldn't. We vote for people because we're like, oh, they have great name recognition. Who cares? Do your research. Find out who everybody who's running in the race. We tell everybody, look at every candidate in the race. Because when you can stand on your own 2 feet and when you're solid, you're not worried about competition. Competition doesn't faze you. But we are not doing our duty any longer. We're looking at who raises the most money, not understanding how that happens sometimes. We're looking at the wrong thing. You have to block it out. You got to block it out. You got to see those who are elected, they are privileged to be there. And we are thankful for those who have done it and have done it well. But not everyone's doing it well. So if anything, what I've been telling people as I'm traveling around the state is to wake up. Don't go woke, wake up. Totally different. Totally different. Wake up and do your duty. Okay, any questions? Thank you. It's Sally. Can you come up with me? Because, she's on the board too. She may be able to.
Thank you for what you're doing, because it's not easy. You could be doing other things. Be much more relaxed, I'm sure.
Be on my farm.
So I kind of have 2 questions, if it's okay.
Yes.
So one, at the end of the hearing about the Fulton County case, you made a motion asking that it be referred to the Attorney General's office for prosecution. What was the result, or what's the update on that? And the other thing is, you said that there were potentially many other cases that you're not aware of. In my mind, as a mayor, if someone asks for a document,
you give it to them.
We give it to them.
Right.
We have to give it to them, I think, within 3 days or a week.
Yeah. Because you're normal and you follow the rules.
Yeah. Good, bad, or ugly, it's all there.
Right.
How is it that this is able to be hidden from you?
Oh, great questions.
Want me to answer?
The second, I'll give you the second one, because you're in the middle of it. So the first question about Fulton County. So I actually amended it too, because to be quite frank with you, I don't think our AG's office is going to do much of anything with it. So I amended it and said, let's send it to the DOJ as well, because maybe that they can have it, whatever they're working on, they can use it. And not only that, but we also sent a request that the AG issue a fine of $5,000 per infraction. So that can go from what I've seen, it could be either $700,000 or more, up until about $1 million or something. So we have not heard anything as of yet. However, they typically come back to us after a couple of board meetings with their consent order, the AG's office, that says these cases were sent to us, we reevaluated it based on what you said, and this is what we determined. We're waiting to hear what they're going to do. But that's not the only case that I'm watching. I'm also watching a case of a woman who, and this is another one that was held up. And matter of fact, it's funny that all the cases that involve illegal aliens voting in our elections were held up. But anyway, so this case was a woman who stood up. She had voted at the time 23 times, and she's from the Bahamas. And I asked her in the meeting, I said, have you applied for citizenship? She's like, no, my kids tell me I should, but I just haven't.
30 years.
Right, 30 years she's been here. Not only that, but when Dr. Jan did further research, we realized that she voted 3 more times after the investigation. So 26 times, okay, as an illegal citizen. She was like, oh, I just would go vote, and whenever my husband voted, I voted. Just relax, no care in the world. You know why? Because we haven't prosecuted anyone who's done anything when it comes to the election, so why should they be concerned? We'll just send it off to the AG's office and let them do what they do. They typically come back with some explanation just to give them a letter of reprimand. So that's another one I'm watching, but let's give it some time. You want to answer the second part?
So on the second part,
just like your clerk's office, we have a judge here, and you have a court clerk who maintains the cases, the case number, the complaint, who the plaintiff, the defendant is, and all that kind of stuff. Well, on the SEB, we have people who have filed complaints, and then we have respondents. We have the county, which is located, it's assigned a case number, and to be honest, as the new person, right, now that I'm in this communication bubble, or non-communication bubble, non-communication bubble, I requested myself, I would like to see all the cases that are currently open. I would like for you to send it to me in Excel format with the case number, and where it occurred, who the complainant is, who the respondent is, what code they've allegedly violated or whatever, just some kind of defining information, because if you look at our agendas, there's scant information for the public to be aware of. I believe that the public should be able to access that docket, because we get calls all the time. I filed a complaint in 2020 and it's never been heard. Can you give me a status update? So, I'm a big communicator, so I want a status update. I send it. Then I find out that the only person who can ask for information is the chairman of the SEB. They won't talk to the rest of us, because the SOS's office is the administrative support for the SEB. So I'm sending emails to these people and don't get responses, and then I'm told that's the only way that you can communicate is through the chairman. And so I'm like asking, okay, what's our communication protocol? I run a business. I've run businesses for years. What's our policy on communicating? If I send an email to my employees and they don't respond to me and say, got it, I'm on it, I hear you, I'm working on it, here's the status. If they don't do that for me, I fire them. So it's by design.
Can I just ask, this is so bewildering, because my understanding of the Open Records Act of our sunshine laws is that myself or anyone here could ask for these things and we would be owed these documents.
Do you think it's fair that, considering the fact that we are charged with enforcing the law, making policies, rules, and regulations, and holding people accountable, which includes the Secretary of State, do you think we should have to do open records requests to the Secretary of State or the AG's office for that? And is it fair that we don't have our own counsel? And is it fair that when the Secretary of State does not respond with the information, we have no legal counsel to advocate for us or even ask questions to represent us? Is it fair, because I'm the one who started the fundraiser for Dr. Jan when she was sued by American Oversight, is it fair that she didn't have legal representation provided for by the state of Georgia?
No. And to piggyback on that, I was in the meeting when we asked the AG's office, are you going to represent her? And they said no, because you won't let us have access to your emails, because we won't hand them our password. And I thought that was crazy. But then she goes to the governor's office and he says no too. He backs them up. So yeah, this is where we are. This is where we are. Everything you just said is 100% what it is. And so it is the most crazy and bizarre behavior I've ever seen. And I have to say, this is why people think something happened. Because it's not what you did, it's what you didn't do. So yeah, okay. Yes.
Okay, my question is, we have to present an ID when we go to vote. Mm-hmm. Okay. How are these people, number one, getting away with not having any identification? And if they're doing it by mail, what do they use for identification?
They have identification. They do. No. They're getting it. I can't tell you the back channels as to how this is happening, but we have illegal citizens walking around with driver's licenses. Absolutely. Or a ID. Absolutely. They do. Oh, sorry, Shawnee, and then I'm coming to you.
I just want to mention, I don't let the southern accent fool you, but I was a naturalized citizen, so voting is so important, because I was told the difference between a citizen and a non-citizen is that you have the right to vote in this country.
Right.
And back when I was 2019, became a county chair for Dawson County, one of the very first things that I did was to request voter roll cleaning. I was basically like crucified, because they're like, why are you doing that? We have majority Republicans. I mean, we don't need that clean.
I know, it's crazy.
That ballot's supposed to be right?
Yeah. Oh, I know, because when it works for you, you don't have a problem. But then when it hurts the other side, you know, it's like when Stacey Abrams was complaining about it, we were like, shut up, you know what you're talking about.
That's the thing.
But now, you know.
The consultant, Stacey Abrams, ended up naming me in her lawsuit. And luckily, I had True to Vote pay for all my expenses, but it's still hanging. It's like 6, 7 years later, it's still going on.
I know.
But what are some of the things that you would recommend that we can do? Because I think everybody were to, because I was the only person that requested it. So I was named in a lawsuit in my area. But the thing is, can other people do that? How easy it is for them? So
I think in this scenario, I say overwhelm the polls. I mean, make sure you vote. Don't sit it out. The moment when you start sitting it out, apathy is the best friend to corruption, because that's less people they kind of have to deal with, right? So just don't sit it out. Do your research. Know who you're voting for and why you're voting for them, and make sure that you go and vote. That's what I say. Okay, yes, ma'am, here, and then I'll come to you.
Janelle, a few years ago, I ran for school district in District 7. The result of that election, we had a tabulation issue, like what you're discussing, but we also had registration issues where 1,100 people outside of the district voted, and the loss was 113 votes. So what is the board doing to address voter roll cleanups and, you know, that whole issue in addition to process controls?
Well, that's a county, so the counties are the ones responsible for cleaning up the voter rolls, and so we're putting pressure on them. We did send our executive director in last year to go to specific counties to find out what's going on. So that's the most we can really do other than putting pressure. However, it's your county election offices that need to clean it up. And I'm with you. Like that's a terrible scenario as well. Now, the SOS, the governor, I think they're the only two, I believe, that have the power to call a re-election if need be. So that race in Oakwood, the SOS could have said, let's do a re-election, but they chose not to.
Yeah.
So, you know.
That election was
Here,
certified,
there.
even with the errors.
Right, okay.
Jason Frazier told us one time that he turned in a huge list of names or addresses that were wrong.
You know about that list.
And he turned it into the Secretary of State. They took the names off, and like 3 weeks before the election, all those names were back on.
Not surprised. Yeah, I have that list too.
Well, the voters that are voting and not citizens live in, they're elderly, and they live in the Hellenic Towers. They're Russian, a lot of them. And they are voting, and they do not have citizenship, nor do they want American citizenship. And there was a lady that I ran into, and she said her grandmother is in the Hellenic Towers, and she's a Republican. And she says, there's nothing I can do to get my grandmother to get American citizenship.
So one thing we had in that particular case of this woman from the Bahamas that had lived here 30 years and not applied to be a citizen, the judge who swore me in, I had a conversation with him, and he said, you know what, when I'm running jury selection, we have a judge here at magistrate court, but when this is a superior court judge, and 21-231 says these are all the criteria for removing people from the voter rolls and that kind of thing. There's a provision in there that judges are to report to the Secretary of State by a certain time of the month and a certain frequency of the people that go to serve on jury duty, and then they check the box that they're not an American citizen. Now, one of my questions is contacting the Secretary of State to see what county judges are replying with that information, what are they doing with the information, how long does it take them off the rolls. So that's one of the things I'm working on, but then guess what? They won't answer me unless I go through the chairman, and I'm a big emailer, but the chairman is not. And so anybody see the movie Cool Hand Luke with what we have here is a failure to communicate? there is a big failure to communicate, and it's not hurting me personally, it's not hurting the Secretary of State personally, it's hurting every citizen in Georgia, because when you go to the polls and you cast a legal ballot, when we allow non-citizens to vote, when we allow illegal voters to vote, that's canceling out your vote. And I don't care if you're in Fulton County and somebody from Ware County does it, it's canceling out your vote, particularly on statewide elections, obviously, and it's not fair to candidates. They put their good hard-earned money to run for these offices, and then you're telling them your, sacred honor, your fortune, none of that means anything, because we're not going to let you have a fair election.
Exactly. All right.
I have one question. How do you change it? By changing the Secretary of State?
Amen. That's number one. Let's do that first. Okay.
I would like to ask, what I'm hearing you say is that you're being stonewalled everywhere you turn around.
But we have a bulldozer. Don't worry.
Yeah.
That's why they're mad at us.
Having to say that I'm not hearing that this is a Democrat problem. I'm hearing that this is a Republican problem.
I wish I was fighting Democrats.
We are known as being, we were known as being a red state. We have all Republicans in positions of power. And yet you're being stonewalled with the very thing.
Not for long.
Well, you're being stonewalled as far as we know.
Yeah.
I'm a grassroots person. I'm one of these people that goes out and digs into people and say, this is why you need to vote. And I'm at a loss to tell these people why they should vote when they come back to me and say, we've tried that and it doesn't get us anywhere. We've tried that, it doesn't get us anywhere. I mean, I want some tools. And the tools that I have right now aren't sufficient.
You too, we'll face it.
No, I'm saying that this has to change.
You want to do something now. That's what you're asking for, tools that you can use right now.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Come to election board meetings.
Yes, election board meetings, educating yourself on what's happening. But unfortunately, you just gotta you gotta vote. Even if you feel like, it's not gonna count, you gotta vote. Because at least it's harder to address it when you don't have that. And so, I know how it feels, I know where you are. I mean, we're dealing with it every single day. Where we're reaching out to people that we used to text with and, have relationships with, and now all of a sudden they can't answer your call anymore. So I'm with you. But you got to keep going. You just got to stand firm.
So make it too big, too big.
Exactly. That's what President Trump did. And believe me, they tried it in 2024. We could talk about that. But
How can we put pressure in our county, our elected officials in our county? How can we be effective?
email them, call them, blast it. Make sure they know that a large number of their constituents is not happy with what they're doing or want them to do something else. But that is our power. So we just have to strengthen it,
And this is campaign season. Remember, all these people are running for office. Go to every meeting, go to every luncheon, go to every event that there is, so that I remember her. I saw her at a Fulton County luncheon, and this was her concern.
Right.
Make yourself present.
Right. There you go.
Oh, okay, I just had a question too.
Yeah. Last question.
Okay, and then I wanted to say something, but she said I could say it.
Okay.
Okay, Susie Bowles and I were auditors. We saw the unfolded absentee ballots, and we both have been.
I'll repeat the question.
We both have long been poll workers. Okay, now I got an email yesterday that Gabe Sterling, they had the goods on Gabe Sterling and the stuff he did. Are you aware of that?
Oh, I'm fully aware of what Gabe Sterling said.
Yes, all the stuff was proof. They went back.
Yeah.
And so I just wondered how true that was.
No, yeah, and Kelvin's reading Raffensperger's book right now, and the highlights that's in that book. I mean, yeah, it's interesting, and Gabe is all through it, so don't you worry. We're on top of it. We're on top of everybody.
Okay, and what about those absentee ballots that were not folded, they were not mailed, obviously, and they came from nursing homes? Quality.
Those ballots are
one. We could not get access to them. Judge Amaro gave us access, the ability to have to look at those ballots And Brad.
Yeah, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna answer your question. Those ballots, those exact ballots are part of our subpoena. That's what we're trying to get
Okay,
to.
and Brad did the amicus brief to keep anybody from seeing those ballots.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So-
But
If you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing.
right, and a judge already ruled that our
Well,
subpoena
I mean, it
stands.
affected me
Yeah.
long. I didn't want to be called a liar, and it still bothers me.